Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I have an open confession for today. Today's been a little bit of a strange day for me, a little bit difficult. Again, I'm not complaining and I'm not sad. It was a little bit of a difficult day because I realized that I had a lot of outstanding grief that I needed to resolve. It was interesting because earlier in the day, one of my coworkers had made an offhand comment, and ordinarily I would have been patient and supportive and understanding and reflective. But because of the mounting anger that was dwelling, and because of the grief that had been unresolved, I kind of bit back at him when I was a little antagonistic. And after the incident, I talked to a coworker just to check in to see if I was being a little, overreactive or sensitive or whatever it was, or if I was legitimate in my frustration. And my friend said, well, Omar, I think you overreacted a little bit. What you said and what he said was not such a big deal that you had to respond the way that you did. And I had already made the intention over the last weekend to use tonight in order to grieve some of the anger that I'd been holding against a few people. And, of course, I'm not going to mention their names, but there were some people that I was holding some anger against. And it literally affected the way that I interacted with my coworkers, with my friends. In fact, at the end of the day today, we got out of work a little bit early because it started snowing. So work was canceled or whatever at 4:30 instead of 6. And right before I left for the day, one of my coworkers pulled me aside and she closed the office door and she said, Omar, is everything okay? You haven't been your usual happy-go-lucky self, and I just feel like something is going on. Are you all right? And the honest answer is no, everything isn't all right, but I didn't necessarily want to talk to her about it. But everything hasn't been okay, and it's okay that everything hasn't been okay. I've known for a couple of days, weeks, that I've needed to deal with this. And so ultimately I decided, I'm going to go ahead and grieve, feel the anger, go through the grief cycle, deal with the anger, deal with the grief, deal with the sadness, mourn the loss, go into transition, and then restore to balance and peace. Now, one of the things about the grief process is just because it's over doesn't mean it's over. Sometimes it takes until the next day to feel better and to feel the relief from the anger or the grief that you need to resolve. But I just wanted to let everyone know that I have been dealing with some issues, and hopefully, God willing, they've been resolved, or at least a chunk of them. That chunk of the grief and the anger has been resolved, and we'll see how I feel tomorrow. So I just wanted to share that, all of these concepts, all of these ideas about grief and about loss and about mourning, they're not just abstract ideas that don't have real consequences in the world. They literally have real consequences. And the more we're able to get in touch with those emotions and deal with them, and not just deal with them by stuffing them, but deal with them by resolving them, the better and the more peaceful we get to be, and the more joy we get to experience in life. One of the things I was thinking of was an incident that happened, I want to say 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I was in Louisiana at that point, and I went into a health food store. And in a health food store, a person is generally speaking going to be more open-minded than the rest of the South, right? But they asked me, what religion do you follow? And I said, oh, I'm a Muslim. And the woman responded to me and said, oh, I always thought that all Muslims were terrorists. I sort of smirked. I said, well, no, we're not, And she's like, no, because from what I've seen on Fox News, the only time I've ever heard Muslims mentioned is with violence and terrorism. I said, oh, well, that's not the case. And then, because I didn't respond with anger or vengeance or meanness, I just said, oh, no, that's not the case. And I briefly explained a little bit about what Muslims believe. And then she said, oh, well, could you tell me what Muslims believe? And so I explained a little bit of our philosophy and our theology, and that we believe in Jesus, and on and on and on. And she said, well, I'm so glad you told me that, because all this time I've had such a negative opinion of Muslims, and now I know better. She didn't say it in quite those words, but that's the gist of what she had said. And she said that because when I was confronted with a negative comment, I didn't respond out of anger, because at that point I was feeling a little bit more joy than I am now. And again, something similar happened from a coworker making a snide comment about my prayer. And rather than responding with that love and understanding that I generally hold myself to, I sort of lashed out in a more negative and spiteful way. And that has real consequences for real people. I don't know. And after the incident, after I talked to my friend and confirmed that, well, I made the mistake, that I overreacted, I went back to my coworker and I asked him, and I told him, I'm sorry, like, I overreacted. He's like, no, man, don't worry about it. I know we're all under a lot of pressure. But, I mean, it was smoothed over, and especially because I apologized, right? If you don't apologize for the mistakes you make, small problems become big problems. But my only point is that this mounting anger and grief that wasn't resolved had real impact on the people in my life, the coworkers that I work with and, have to deal with every day, So I just wanted to share that, and that hopefully, God willing, inshallah, tomorrow, some of the weight of this anger and grief will be resolved, and I'll be back to my happy-go-lucky self. If so, alhamdulillah. If not, alhamdulillah, I've got more. Or if so, praise be to God. If not, praise be to God. Either way, I've got to continue on and trust that God will help me on this path of resolving everything that I'm doing. But I'm here in the, one of the things I was thinking of earlier was that, it's one thing to give advice and to talk about knowing the path, and it's another thing to walk the path. They're two different things. And I'm glad that I'm sharing information on knowing the path, but also walking the path along with you. So I hope that you have a nice evening. I hope that if you're in the middle of the winter, that you are safe in the snow. And if you're in the middle of the summer in the south, then enjoy the heat. And I'll talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.